Time to pull up a chair. We've got another great story for you today in the rLounge. Can you truly help someone who doesn't want to help themselves? Today in the rLounge, a brother who, despite a college degree, never learned the value of hard work. Brother called me uneducated street vendor. I called him useless bum when he came asking for money. My brother, 29 male, insulted me, 36 male, for not completing school. He's educated and has a college degree. He thinks I'm beneath him because I didn't go to college. It's not like I didn't want to, but my circumstances didn't allow me to. Life hasn't exactly been easy for me, but I've never been one to complain. I grew up poor, like dirt poor. The idea of finishing high school or going to college was only a dream. My parents could barely keep the lights on. I started doing odd jobs when I was 13. When money started coming in, I was happy. I took 2 jobs and then 3. It wasn't glamorous, but it was what I had to do. I don't remember when I dropped out of school and started working full time. When I was working on a food truck, I liked the idea. I felt I can also do this. I quickly learned everything. I knew I wanted to have my own business one day. So when I was 21, I started my own food truck. I've been running it for over 15 years now. It's my livelihood, and it's something I built from scratch. After the success of one, I launched 3 more, and now I only do managerial work and oversee the operations. My dream is to make it like a food chain. Let's see how far I can go. It may not be fancy, but it's mine, and I've worked hard to keep it going. I didn't need a high school diploma to figure out how to make a living. But my younger brother, Alex, he had a different path, or at least that's what we all thought. My parents and I worked our tails off to put him through school. They believed he was going to make something of himself, but things didn't turn out that way. Alex is 7 years younger. By the time he started school, I was already earning, so he led a better life because I brought money home. He was good at studies, and we wanted him to go to college. My parents always pinned their hopes on Alex. They thought he was the one who'd break the cycle of poverty for us. They saw him as their golden child, the one who'd get an education, land a job, and pull us out of the hole we'd been stuck in for generations. I was already making money by then, but still, I didn't mind. I knew my place in the family, working to help out what I could do. And I was okay with it. I was not a rebel. I'm the kind of guy who puts my head down and works hard. I was also hopeful that my brother would get a good education and bring a good name to the family. When Alex was old enough for high school, my parents did everything they could to make sure he stayed on track. They couldn't afford much, but they scraped together what little savings they had to send him to community college. I chipped in too. I launched another truck and ran it all by myself while still managing the older one from time to time. I saved every penny I could so he wouldn't have to worry about money the way I did. I was dating my wife and had marriage plans, but we put that on hold. I told her to wait for a while until I sent Alex to college. She's a wonderful woman. She agreed. We all hoped Alex would make the most of the opportunity. But as the years went on, it became clear that he wasn't taking things seriously. He barely passed his classes and spent more time hanging out with friends than studying. He thought we were uneducated and he could fool us. Yeah, we didn't go to college, but we know this. If you're good, you'll get a job. Instead of focusing on his future, he acted like the world owed him something just because he was going to college. He did manage to graduate, barely. My parents were hopeful, thinking he'd finally start to live up to the expectation we all had for him. But after graduation, he wasn't able to get a job. He got rejected in interviews. He told my parents that there were fewer openings this year, and that next year, when the fresh opportunities come, he would get one. It took him more than a year to get a job. Even after getting one, he bounced from one job to another. He couldn't hold down work for more than a few months, always getting fired for some reason or another. It was always someone else's fault. His boss was unreasonable, his coworkers were idiots, or the job wasn't good enough for him. After being fired from one job, he wouldn't even hunt for another. He would spend the days playing video games. My parents were heartbroken. They had burned through what little savings they had to try to give him a better life, and he had nothing to show for it. He was still living at home, still asking for money, and still not making responsibility for himself. Meanwhile, I was out there every day running my food truck, working long hours to make sure I had enough money to pay my bills and help out my parents when they needed it. I was married and leading on my own family, yet I helped my parents because they needed it. There were so many times when my parents shared their worries with me regarding Alex's carelessness. They were tired of providing for him, but they were unable to stand up to him. Alex created the atmosphere of superiority around himself. Since none of us were educated like him and knew stuff that he knew, he looked down upon us. Most of the time when I visited home, he was either out with friends or locked up inside his room playing video games. Can you imagine a 23-year-old grown and educated man piling up on his poor parents and spending the day and nights playing video games? Once I was visiting home, I'll say I'm lying on the couch and watching TV. Like he didn't have a care in the world. Call me nosy, but I couldn't stop myself. I sat down and tried to talk to him. I asked him, what's your plan? Mom and Dad are getting old. They can't keep supporting you forever. You've got a college degree. You're smart. You can do something with your life. He didn't even look up from the TV and rolled his eyes. I said, do you want to talk about something? Why are you not able to get a job? You have a degree, don't you? He kept staring at the screen and muttered, why don't you mind your own business? I was shocked at his response. I tried to justify myself that I wasn't being nosy. I was just worried about his future and also about our parents. Things got heated up between us when he said, why don't you focus on your own family and let us deal with our own crap? I was like, this is my crap too. I also contribute to this house. Unlike you, I cannot let my parents sleep on an empty stomach. I'm the reason we got shifted to this 2-bedroom apartment. Earlier, we used to live in a studio apartment, remember? He remained silent. I thought he got to his senses. I tried to make him understand that it wasn't a matter of food anymore. We're in a better place now, but we also should strive to get even more better. We cannot let our parents work 2 jobs for the rest of their lives. Also, I asked if he was facing any issues with his career. Then maybe we could discuss it and find a solution. If he needs to learn any skill to get a job or something. To my suggestion, he whispered without missing a beat. He said, what would you know about technical skill and all? I don't need any lecture from an uneducated street vendor. I stared at him, dumbfounded. After everything I'd done for him, after all the work I'd put in to help him get ahead, that's what he thought of me? An uneducated street vendor? As if I was beneath him because I didn't finish high school, and he had a piece of paper from some community college. I couldn't hold back anymore. I snapped. You think you're better than me? I might not have a college education, but at least I've built something. I've been out here working every day for the last 15 years. What have you done? You're 23 years old, sitting on the couch, doing nothing. The argument escalated from there. We shouted at each other. Mom tried to step in, but it was too late. Alex stormed out of the house, and that was the last time we spoke for years. After he left, I had a minor tiff with my mom as well. I called her out for her pampering. My parents should be the one who needs to cut the cord for him. If they continue to bear his expenses, he will never take his responsibilities. I can't imagine this was the son my parents were putting their hopes on. My mom was like, how can we just kick him away, knowing that he has nowhere else to go? He is trying his best to get a job, but he says there are fewer jobs in the market now. I said this can't be true, that a skillful and talented man doesn't get a job. He's not getting one because he's not serious enough. How many interviews did he appear in? I always see him lounging in his room with his video games. Even if he gets any, he won't be able to keep the job, you'll see. My sayings came out to be true. Later when he got the job, he couldn't hold it for more than a few months. He always got fired. She heard me rant and just nodded. I knew she won't do anything about it. I was angry at my parents also, but later I realized why was I wasting my energy. I had anyways pulled back my support after having 2 children. They didn't ask either. They're hardworking people. They earn their own living, but whenever I drop by, I slip a few bucks to my mom or buy them groceries or household stuff. However, after that incident, I stopped visiting them. Then a year later, Mom showed up at my house. She brought gifts for my children and then revealed that Dad had kicked Alex out of the house. They couldn't afford to support him anymore, especially not when he refused to help himself. Dad gave him 2 months' time to find a job and start to pay rent and pay for his food, but Alex faltered. Dad gave him the ultimatum to vacate the house, but Alex was stubborn. He thought it was all false threats and my parents could never cut him off. So, one day, Dad threw away his stuff, took away his house key, and didn't let him enter the house. A lot of drama happened before the final showdown, but that's not important to cover. I was happy to know about this. Not because Dad kicked his fat butt, but I thought in this way he'd find his way, or at least learn that the world doesn't owe you anything. Meanwhile, I kept grinding away with my food truck. I may not have a fancy job title, but I've got something that's mine. Something I built with my own hands. For all these years, Alex and I didn't talk. I'd hear bits and pieces from my parents about how he was struggling, getting fired from jobs, falling into debt, and refusing to change his ways. I felt bad for him, but at the same time, I knew he had to figure things out on his own. No one could help him if he didn't want to help himself. Then, 2 days back, Alex showed up at my door. It was the first time I'd seen him in years. He looked rough. His clothes were wrinkled, he hadn't shaved in who knows how long, and he had that desperate look in his eyes that people get when they've hit rock bottom. "I need money," he said, not even bothering with small talk. He said he was in a huge debt and had nowhere else to go. He wasn't even asking, he was demanding. I stood there for a moment, taking it all in. My brother, the same guy who called me an uneducated street vendor, was now standing at my door asking for help. The irony wasn't lost on me, but I wasn't about to let him off the hook that easily. I asked him with a blank face, "Are you sure you want to take money from an uneducated street vendor? The money you're asking is being made on the streets." He tried to dodge, saying, "Oh, come on, buddy. Let go of the past. I'm in trouble. Help me out." I snapped, "Why should I help you? You look down upon my work. You called me names, never appreciated what I did for you, and now you want my money? Funny, huh?" Alex looked at me, and for the first time, I saw fear in his eyes. He wasn't the cocky kid who thought he was better than me anymore. He was scared, desperate, and out of options. His voice cracked. "Come on, man. You're still holding that thing? I was a kid back then, didn't know about the world. Now, I understand how terrible it is out there. I appreciate how much you've done for the family. I respect you." I said, "I'm not going to melt at your sweet words. You were being a butt after you went to college. Treated me like crap. You insulted my business. How can I forgive you?" He tried his last bet, saying, "We're family. You're my brother. We're supposed to have each other's back." I shook my head. "Family? You never acted like family. You've spent your whole life only taking from us. I've worked too hard for what I've got. You want money? Go get a job and earn it." Alex opened his mouth to argue, but I cut him off. "You're a useless bum. You've had every opportunity, and you've thrown it all away. I'm not giving you a dime." He stood there for a second like he was going to say something, but then he turned and walked away. Next day I came home to find my mom sitting with my wife and children. I got suspicious at her sudden visit. Then my wife took the children away for bedtime. Mom told me that Alex visited them and he had been in serious trouble. I said I knew about his condition. He came to me as well, but I turned down his request. Mom was like, "Son, your brother is in really big trouble and needs your help. He borrowed money from not-so-good people who are now chasing him for the repayment." I asked her how he ended up in such a huge debt. She said he was being fired from work, so he borrowed money from some of his friends to cover his mortgage and bills. He thought he would be able to find another job sooner, but he couldn't. When his friends started asking for their money back, Alex took loans from a bar owner who usually lent money to others as well. Alex didn't know that he was a rookie, and he charged huge interest on the loan amount. Alex is still jobless, and his debt is piling up. This is how a man gets trapped in a vicious cycle of debt. That bar owner has goons who hunt down people who don't pay the money on time. Alex is now being chased by those people. I was wondering why couldn't Alex find a job, and why he always fired. Is it not possible that all the companies would have had bad bosses or bad coworkers? It must be him. Why can't he hold on to one job? He's a grown man now. My mom intervened and said, "We can discuss this stuff later, but can you please bail him out now? He really needs the money." I snapped at her. "That dude looked down upon my work, and you want me to bail him out? No way." Mom started sobbing and said that those people were even threatening to harm Alex. Now I'm worried. I don't want to give him a penny, but it would be unbearable to see him getting harmed. What do I do now? I discussed it with my wife, and she said maybe I could give him a chance. Update. Thanks, buddies, for the comment. I was still thinking about what to do when I got to know that my mom already churned out her lifelong savings for Alex. I didn't think of it much. Then a week later, I was passing by them and thought to drop by. I casually asked my mom about Alex, and she blew out at me saying, "He's our son. How could we keep the money and let him get thrashed?" It felt like a jibe, as if she was digging me for not helping Alex. Her behavior was also cold. I asked her what's the matter. Why was she sounding annoyed? Then she let out herself and said, "How could you not help your brother? The poor child came to you with so much hope, and you chased him out. Do you have no sympathy for him?" I was stunned at her behavior. I was like, "Where were you when he insulted me? You didn't take my side then. You intervened when the matter blew up. You guys could have schooled him earlier, made him apologize, but you chose to look otherwise." We got into a heated argument, and I said everything I had in my heart. They always look upon him as the golden child. He got the best of everything. What did he give in return? Nothing. In fact, he piled up on you guys for so many years, and you all didn't complain. What did you do for me? I have been working my butt off since 13. I brought you guys out of poverty, moved you into this bigger place. Did you ever appreciate me? No. You were busy raising your golden child, thinking he would bring fortunes. When she was unable to counter me, she started sobbing that I was counting favors on her. She was acting unreasonable, so I left without any further talks. I stopped visiting them after that. Then, almost a month later, Dad showed up at my workplace. There, he narrated the entire stuff. So when Alex came to them with his sob story, Dad chased him out, saying it was his crap and he needs to deal with it. However, when Dad wasn't around, he came to Mom and emotionally manipulated her. Mom pulled out all her savings and handed it over to him. Alex had promised her to repay the money in the monthly installments. However, just after taking the money, he vanished. He's not responding to her calls or texts. Later, Dad got to know that Alex had gotten addicted to gambling, and that's where he's blowing up all his money. The story about his debt was partially true. In actual, He has lost his money in gambling, and hence the casino owner was sending goons to extort money from him. I wasn't surprised about this because his condition showed that he was in bad company. After hearing all that, I felt so glad that I didn't burn my money to save his butt. Maybe he deserved to get thrashed. I feel sad that he wiped out my mom's hard-earned savings. I hope she learned her lesson and lets her man-child face the consequences of his actions. We cannot save a person who doesn't want to be saved. Alex is such a troublemaker that if you pull him out of one problem, he'll end up in another. Now we can't waste our life dealing with his crap. We have our own crap to deal with. You worked incredibly hard to build your life and support your family while he hasn't taken responsibility for his own path. It's tough to watch someone you care about make poor choices, especially after you've put in so much effort to help him. When your brother came back asking for money, it's natural to feel conflicted. You've made sacrifices for your family and now it feels like he's taking advantage of that. It's a hard situation because on one hand, you want to help him, but on the other hand, he hasn't shown that he deserves it. You could think about offering to help him find a job or support him in making a plan to get back on track rather than just giving him cash. That way, you're not enabling his behavior but still showing that you care. It's about striking a balance between compassion and tough love. But ultimately, you're right, OP. We can't save anyone, but we can help anyone who doesn't want to be helped. Have you ever faced a situation where you had to decide between helping a family member who consistently makes poor choices and protecting your own well-being? What did you choose to do? Share your thoughts with us in the comments below. And thank you for joining us today in the rLounge. Be sure to like and subscribe and hit that notification bell so you don't miss out on our next video. Until next time, and please put your chair back where you found it.